In this video, we are going to explore the runtime statistics and traces, debugging AMDP, and watching the demos associated with these topics and the exercises. Runtime statistics and traces. SAP provides some tools to perform runtime statistics and trace analysis. First one is the unit test or ABAP unit, which can be used to perform unit tests of any ABAP class or function group or program. These are special classes or called as test classes also. These are developed in ABAP, in the ABAP development environment, and SAP provides wizards to create these classes or ABAP unit test classes for ABAP classes and function groups, and it can be implemented in the tested development. Next we have the ST22 or ABAP dump analysis. This tool gives pretty detailed information of any ABAP runtime error. It gives the details of where exactly the runtime occurred, why it occurred, and even the data associated with the program at the time of the runtime error. Next is the tracing of SQL script. Earlier SAP had CE plan operator trace, which creates a temporary view SQL script underscore trace. However, this trace operator has been deprecated and SAP recommends to use debugging of the SQL script to trace what's exactly happening. Let's have a look at how to create a ABAP unit test class and use that same class to do unit testing for ABAP code. I'm in ABAP editor in Eclipse environment, and I have created a very simple class which has a static attribute and a static method. So the static method sets the attribute statement to a string. Now let's create a test class. How to create a test class? In this editor, I'll navigate to the test class tab here, and I'll start by typing test and control space to invoke the code completion. I'll use this template. We'll start with this template to create the test class. There are some additions. If we notice here, it is a local class and it has an addition for testing, duration, risk level, harmless, and all these stuffs. If we want to know more details about this, we can do look up the help information here. I'll just put the cursor here and press F1. So I see all the information here. I can maximize this and see it. Now we're back to the test class here. I'll modify this class a little bit so that uh, we can use it to test this class. I've modified the class. So I've changed the method names to valid test and invalid test, and I have changed added these lines calling the set statement method of the global class, this global class here, which will set the statement attribute, and that will be used as one of the arguments of this assert equals method of class cl underscore abap underscore unit underscore assert. Basically, it's the same as this class, cl underscore a unit underscore assert. So just to show that I'm using the two classes here. Now, how to execute this? I'll activate this class and I will execute this with run as ABAP unit. We see the results here. For invalid, it has the actual and expected, and for valid, since everything is matching, there's no issue here. So there's more information about how to use this class. There are several other methods as well of this class which can be used for creating the test class, and more information obviously is available in help.sap.com. So that completes the demo on using a ABAP unit to do unit testing from Eclipse environment. Let's see how to debug the SQL script or SQL procedures, stored procedures. Now I am in the database HANA perspective, and I select the database and click SQL console. I have the SQL console here. I'm just going to copy some of the SQL codes that I already have. So what we're going to do with this SQL script is this portion, the one that I'm highlighting right now, is going to create a table type, and this portion that I'm highlighting now from row number 5, or rather 6 till 18, is going to create a stored procedure, and the stored procedure when executed will populate the tab underscore flight table with the output returned by C projection, C column table, and C projection from SFlight. So we can execute the queries by selecting or highlighting the ones that we want to execute and then clicking execute. I select this, and if I execute, it says it's executed. So the type would have been created. I don't see it because I haven't really refreshed the database. Now let me execute this also, and then I'll refresh it. I'll execute. Now let me refresh the database. If I expand the schema and go to procedures, I should have the table type and the stored procedure. Now I'll double click on the stored procedure. It'll open the stored procedure. To debug the stored procedure, we need to set the breakpoint. How do we set the breakpoint? Right click and do a toggle breakpoint. That's how you set the breakpoint. But before doing that, since we want to debug this, I will go to the debug perspective, and I don't have any thread active now, so I'll just set a breakpoint here, and okay, so it's still not active. Let me remove it, and let me go to debug configuration, and this is the configuration that I will use. So to create a new configuration, I can select this HANA stored procedure and click this new, and I can create a new one which I've already created, and I'm setting a breakpoint using the user, which is my user ID. Now I'll hit debug. So this thread is active now. Let me set the breakpoint here. Okay, not on here, the stored procedure. So I'll toggle breakpoint. Let me set here also. Now I'll execute the query. This query I'll execute. It comes and stops. The control comes and stops here, the breakpoint that I set. Now here on the right side, we can see the where we set the breakpoints and the variables. Here tab underscore flight doesn't have an entry right now. Now if I execute, I'll just execute straight away till the end. Again, it will stop here since I have a breakpoint here. I press F8. Now we see that tab flight has 52 rows, which is after this filter. Now how do I see the contents? I can do right click and then do an open data preview. I see the entries here. So that is how we debug the SQL script stored procedures. Debugging AMDP. AMDPs need to be debugged via an external session. Start the debugger. The script debugger will call the DB procedure. The session ID or the system ID need to be attached. ABAP user calls the program and program gets executed within the DB. Let's see how to debug an AMDP class or AMDP methods in the AMDP class. Here I have already created a simple AMDP class. It has the interface marker, IF AMDP marker HDB, and the method implementation has by database procedure for HDB language SQL script, which is required for the AMDP class and AMDP method. We're going to debug this AMDP method, and I have the program to call the method AMDP method from here. Now to debug this AMDP class or AMDP method, we need to go to the debug perspective. I'm hitting the debug perspective. Oh, okay, let me terminate this. I don't need this one. So I'll go to the AMDP class and I'll set a breakpoint here. This is the AMDP method. I'll do a right click and toggle AMDP method. Now the moment I create or set this breakpoint, if you notice a thread is created here. Let me remove this and create another one. Now I can execute this program. So this program will take the connection ID and get the data from this AMDP method. So let me execute it by pressing F8. I will specify a connection ID and let me hit execute. So the control comes and stops here inside the AMDP method. Since this AMDP method has only one select statement, it's going to stop here and come out. Now as you see, the select statement has not been executed yet. ET flight has no entries. Now if I press F6, It got executed and it got two entries. I'll do a right click and show data preview. I see these entries at the bottom: American Airlines and Air Test. So this is a simple way to debug an AMDP method or AMDP class. One thing that we should be careful about here while debugging the AMDP class method is in the debug configuration, we need to set it as external session and specify the user ID, which I've already done. So how to create this? I can do a right click and then new configuration, and a pop-up will come and we can set the ID here. That is how we debug an AMDP class or AMDP method. Based on the complexity, you can set multiple breakpoints inside the method. In my case, I just have one select statement, so it's quite simple. So that completes the demo on debugging AMDP class. Next step, work on the exercises.